do? It's DOA back with another episode of Putting Shit Together. Today, man, we gonna dive into, one of my favorite topics is that Black Americans are the Aboriginal Americans, but this little segue we gonna do gets even deeper because we gonna be talking about some of the artifacts that they have found over here in America. And there is a lot of controversy and back and forth about, is America the real Egypt, the real Africa, the have the real biblical lands that they speak about in these old texts? Is it America? You know what I'm saying? Because America, we do have a Cairo. We do have a Cairo. We do have a Mesopotamia down in Alabama, Cairo's in Illinois. You know what I'm saying? We do have a Memphis. And we do have lots of pyramids here in America. We got the biggest concentration of pyramids. If you look up Indian mounds, on Google, man, and you'll see for yourself. I've been to over 10 of these sites myself, probably closer to 20, if not 20 of them or more. I would say probably 20 or more, actually, that I've actually been to. I've been to several in Kentucky. I've been to Cahokia Mounds up in East St. Louis. Been to Cahokia up there. I've been to mounds up in Iowa as well. Been to mounds in Tennessee and Indiana. Ohio got the serpent mounds. You know what I'm saying? I've been to mound. I live near a mound in Alabama, Oakville Mounds. It's right next to the Jesse Owens Museum, who Jesse Owens used to rock the Mohawk. And we know we got the Mohawk Indians up in the New England area, and they are black. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've been to mounds down in LSU campus got two mounds right in the middle of it. Yeah, man, we got mounds all over the East Coast. It's called a Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, to be exact. And there's mounds everywhere, man. I mean, everywhere. So we got the largest concentration of mounds. They're older than the Great Pyramids in Egypt. So these predate the pyramids in Egypt. So who gave who the technology? Who gave who the engineering? You know what I'm saying? Where is the beginning? Because they got this whole out of Africa theory that stems from the belief that the oldest human remains were found in Africa. But that, for one, if it were true, only says that that's the oldest ones they found. You see what I'm saying? That don't mean that that's the oldest remains, but that's just saying that they the oldest ones they found. But these mounds are from 10,000 BC, even before, older than 10,000 BC. So, man, that's older than what they even give credit for humans being on the planet. So, there's an argument to be made, man. It really is. We got Acadia up in the Northeast. I could go on and on, but without further ado, let's get into the video and see what the brother is saying, and then we gonna go ahead and dive into the content. You know how we do.
Howard Carter. They supposed to have found King Tut in Egypt, right? They supposed to be in Egypt in Africa, right? So this supposed to be Egypt in Africa. This a stage picture, y'all. This stage. This is Mammoth Cave in Kentucky where they really found King Tut. 400-mile long underground cave in Kentucky that we knew nothing about. Largest in the world. And there's a lot of white people that's scared to talk. They told me that they found them, but they scared to talk. Look at that, they found 3,000 mummies there. So check this out. Who is this in the Mammoth Cave in Kentucky? That's Howard Carter. What is he doing in the Mammoth Cave? Look at this. That's Howard Carter. That's the same guy. And did you know they found King Tut magical eggs in Idaho? 3 years before they supposed to have found King Tut tomb in
And
Egypt.
that markings on this egg was King Tut's high priest signature on one side of the rock and the cartouche of his name on the other. Now keep in mind that they didn't break into King Tut's tomb until 1922, yet this Egyptian alabaster egg was found in Pocatello, Idaho in 1918 before they ever knew anything about King Tut.
So look, now they stage it in Africa like they found the eggs in Africa.
Decorated with a cow-headed goddess, there lay this whole pile of strange egg-shaped white vessels. These would have been filled with food to be consumed by the king during his journey into the realm of the dead.
Come on, bro. Look at this. Evidence suggests that the Mammoth Cave was used by Native Americans for thousands of years. Native Americans didn't mummify themselves. They discovered various mummies. Native Americans don't mummify themselves. Egyptians do. The King Mounds, the ancient buried city, Kentucky, several mummies. Man, look at this, y'all. Kentucky was the burial site. So look, this is an Egyptian god that got in this picture. Look at this, a spirit. They didn't know it. Look at this. That's a spirit. Look at the beak. That's a god. That's an Egyptian god. Look at the beak. That's a spirit that got caught in the picture. That's Thoth, the god Thoth. Look at the beak. You know what Thoth do? Thoth, he is credited for the inventing of hieroglyphics and serving as the scribe and the record keeper for the gods. He keep records. And did you know that guy died? They found King Tut. He wasn't supposed to touch it. Now this Queen Elizabeth wears this on her arm. Did y'all know that? And that's a fallen angel stepping on a black man with a dagger. A young black man with a dagger. Look at this. This is King Tut's dagger. King Tut was the king of.
So, in case I gotta cut the front of that video off because it has some music on it, and you know how YouTube be tripping. But bro said, you know, they allegedly found King Tut's tomb in Egypt. So they say. But he's saying, and you can see that they found those cartouches in Idaho. And you can see the same guy, Howard Carter, who allegedly found King Tut's tomb in Egypt, was in Mammoth Cave, though. He was in Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. And y'all know I spent a lot of time in Kentucky. Shout out to the Ville, you know what I'm saying? I've been to Mammoth Cave a couple of times, actually. And what a lot of people don't realize is that Mammoth Cave was owned by black people. Black people own that land that Mammoth Cave is sitting on. So the entrance to Mammoth Cave was actually owned by some black folk. Now, bro said Native Americans don't mummify. Now, I give them that just on the semantics of it, because native means born in a place. That's different than aboriginal. So I never say that black people are natives, because that's really a slash to what we actually are. We the aboriginal. We the aborigines in America. So that means that we was the first. We was here. We are from the original people. You see what I'm saying? So aborigines do mummify, though. That's the thing. In these mounds, the mounds that I'm talking about, these pyramid-like structures, a lot of them are burial mounds. So they'll have bodies that are buried in them. Some of them mummified, some of them not, but they always staged in these burials. They, you know, the burials will signify the person's status in our society, you know. So there was some truth to what he said, definitely, but I will remind you that Aboriginal Americans did use mummification. But these caves, man, even the national park services will tell you that black people are given credit for being the explorers of Mammoth Cave. And I've told people, and I've been telling people for a decade now, that the Underground Railroad is really Mammoth Cave because this is the longest interconnected cave in the world, is Mammoth Cave. And it actually spans from Alabama all the way up to Kentucky. So you got different entrances that are all connected in this one cave system. So when they speak about black people using this underground railroad to travel from the south to the north, I believe wholeheartedly that they speaking about Mammoth Cave. Now, pictured on the screen is Stephen Bishop. This is one of the black people that they herald in the National Park Service. But of course, they gonna say that he was a slave. But you got to keep in mind that slave does not mean brought from Africa. That's not the definition of slave. Slave is really when you do work without receiving the proper compensation for said work. And even indentured servants, which is kind of interchangeable between the word slave. They put this slave on it to try to paper genocide you into believing that everybody that they put slave on has been brought from Africa on a ship and they was in chains, whipped, etc., etc. But that's not always the case because we know that European whites were brought over as slaves, quote unquote, and indentured servants, meaning that they had to work without receiving proper pay because their work was exchanged for the voyage itself. So when you see slave, that don't mean that they was shipped over. That just mean that somebody did some work that they didn't get compensated for properly. We got slaves over here right now, man. We got people working at minimum wage, and I'm not taking a slight at anybody that works for minimum wage because, kudos to you for doing your job and we appreciate that. But when you're not properly compensated, it's as if you're doing slave labor. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't have enough to live off of comfortably. You see, the price of living and your wage does not match up. So to me and to most, that's slave labor. So they say in 1838, a teenage slave from Kentucky was given a rare opportunity. Rather than breaking his back in the fields with his peers, he was tasked with mapping Kentucky's Mammoth Cave, right? So he was trudging through the dark with a dimly lit lantern, braving uncharted subterranean rivers, forcing his body through impossible tunnels, and leading rich visitors into the unknown. Stephen Bishop became a daring explorer in his own right and a master of Mammoth Cave. Said he was born to a black mother and rumored white father. Nah, you can see, bro, but they say that was his owner. Not much is known about his childhood apart from whatever, right? Now tell me how a person brought from Africa, or we could say born to a white man, if that's what they alleging, how would he know where to go inside of a cave that he ain't never seen before? You see what I'm saying? How you gonna map a cave and you ain't even never seen it before? Bro already knew where he was going, man. He mapped the cave. He's giving tours down in a dungeon with dim light. You see what I'm saying? There's another one though. There's another one who actually owned the land. Let's see. But before we get into that, because I'm going to go ahead and pull that up, type that up. But before we get into that, right, they found mummies in Mammoth Cave. Now, you know they're not going to tell you everything and they're not going to show you everything because they don't want to contradict anything that they want to lead you to believe, which is that all these mummies, King Tut, etc., is found in Egypt, when in fact that may not be the case. And even if it was, why can't you identify who these people are, who these mummies are, if you can identify who those mummies are? How you come up with names and all of this when you ain't giving us no real names and positions of the mummies that you finding right there in Kentucky? But they got the Fawn Hoof mummy, right? Was found in Mammoth Cave. They say the saga of Fawn Hoof unfolded in late 1811, weeks before the New Madrid earthquakes will rock the region during saltpeter mining in Short Cave, a few miles south of Mammoth Cave. A miner's routine strike to the ground with a wooden shovel transformed from a soft, dull thud to a louder, hollow ring. This marked the beginning of an intriguing tale. Upon discovering a flat rock beneath the cave's floor, the miner, driven by curiosity, carefully excavated it around it. As the clay was removed from the top and sides, an unusual sight unfolded. A 4-foot by 4-foot crypt was revealed beneath the rock, leaving the miner in shock. Okay, rested was an ancient Native American woman. Now they've misused that word because it's they calling it a Native American, but I already told y'all how the semantics go with that. But yeah, so they found her, right? They found her. Mammoth Cave. So, of course, like I said, they're not going to tell you, they're not finna tell you everything that they found down in Mammoth Cave. But a lot of people don't even know that they found a baby mummy also. They said, although Fawn Hoof stands out as the most renowned mummy discovered in Short Cave, it wasn't the first to capture attention. That distinction belongs to a mummy simply known as Baby Mummy. See, now why we ain't got all the fancy names, King Tut and all of that. Unearthed in the summer of 1811 by saltpeter miners, this infant, aged between 9 to 12 months, was impeccably preserved, wrapped in a canvas-like cloth and enveloped in deerskin, much like Fawn Hoof, right? Sadly, when the miners transported the infant mummy from the cave to normal atmospheric conditions, all but its skull disintegrated in the dust within mere hours, adding to the tragedy. Uncertain about how to handle the situation, the miners disposed of the remains and clothing in a furnace. Deeply troubled by this turn of events, cave owner Charles Wilkins directed his laborers to preserve any future discoveries, promising them rewards for their efforts. So, just conveniently, they say that it turned to dust. But instead of just keeping the dust of the body with the skull, you gonna throw it into a furnace as well as the clothes? You see, like, what are we talking about? They getting rid of evidence, bro. If y'all don't know what getting rid of evidence look like, man, that's what it look like. Motherfucker gonna burn the clothes and shit. Like you just committed a murder, bro. You just committed a crime. That's the number one thing you do when you commit a murder, bro. Let me go and burn these clothes and shit. We trying to get rid of all DNA evidence. And that's another thing. They don't want to test these mummies against anybody to see who's tied to them. Motherfuckers will do a 23andMe and all this goofy stuff that says for entertainment purposes only, because they're not including these DNAs of the ancient Americans on this panel. because when they do your 23andMe or whatever, your ancestry.com, they're only comparing you to whatever DNA they have on file. And by federal law, they're not even permitted to use the DNA from these mounds and these mammoth cave mummy excavations. They can't use these on the 23andMe. So they don't have your ancestors on there to compare your DNA to. You see what I'm saying? They can find family members. If they got your family members' DNA on file, then they could show you some family members that you might not know you had, but they can't tell you where your people actually come from if you're excluding one of the locations from a possibility. Now the closest DNA match to you is gonna be West Africa, but that don't mean that's where you from. That's just the closest DNA that they got to you in their file. They don't even have these Aboriginal Americans' DNA on file, man. Here go another one, Scudder Mummy, right? This another one that they found, Mammoth Cave. We just gonna go through their Audubon Avenue Mummy, right? There's another one, Little Alice Mummy. You feel me? I'm just gonna take y'all through real quick because I got some other stuff that I want to show y'all. Let me see. Let me see. So we just keep going. Lost John Mummy, right? These is all mummies that they find in America, that they find in these caves. And to see the cave, these caves have high salt content in them, so they're great for preserving human remains. The salt makes them a great spot to preserve these human remains. But I'm trying not to make this one too long, this video, man. But I'm just gonna scroll down through this site so y'all can see how many mummies they're showing you. So these is multiple mummies, but they ain't gonna talk about that. You see what I'm saying? Let's see. Let me pull up something for y'all. Bransford. Here we go. So they gonna act like you see how they gonna do, man. You see what AI gonna do. We ain't even gonna look at that. But y'all could pause it and read it because it's gonna allude to it, but they gonna also deny it at the same time. So here we go with the African American misnomer, right? I'm trying to get to, yeah. So we got Matt Bransford and Nick Bransford. These are some of the early guides, but what they not gonna tell you probably right here is that the Bransford family actually owned that land and they moved the black people off of that land. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. Said while the original enslaved guides in 1838 were Stephen, Matt, Bransford, Nick, and Alfred, many black guides will follow in their footsteps over the course of the next century. After the Civil War, Matt's son Henry also became a cave guide, as well as Matt's nephew Will Bransford. Will served as the lead guide to both black and white guides during the early 1900s and represented Mammoth Cave at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. Matt's grandsons, Lewis and Matt Bransford, worked as guides into the 1930s. Matt retired from guides tours in 1937 and Lewis in 1939. The National Park Service officially assumed operations of Mammoth Cave in 1941. When the guide staff was assembled, none of the black guides were asked to stay on as cave guides, including the fourth generation Bransford, Clifton, Arthur, Eddie, Elsie, and George. This ended a century of both black and white cave guides working alongside each other and a legacy of Bransford's guiding at Mammoth Cave. So the great grandson returned at some point. Okay. When visiting Mammoth Cave in the early 1900s, European Americans had several options of hotels nearby, but black travelers were limited in places they could stay on their vacations due to segregation laws. One place that provided food and lodging was the Bransford Summer Resort, a 2-story, 14-room hotel for African Americans owned by cave guide Matt's grandson, and his wife, Zimmy Bransford. The Bransford Summer Resort flourished in the community during the early 1900s. It was the first location in Mammoth Cave history where the African American community could experience the same comforts and fascination of cave white visitors had experienced for over a century. The resort was eventually sold in 1934 to make way for the establishment of Mammoth Cave National Park. So that was the light way of them telling you that they moved people off of there. They moved the black people off of there. But why were the black people the lead guides? Why were the black people who trained the white people to be guides? And as soon as they had trained them properly enough, they, of course, got rid of the black people. Now, if we're all just exploring this cave for the first time, and we know how white people like to take credit for shit, if they didn't have to give you credit, if they didn't have to allow you to be there, they would not give you credit and they would not let you be there. So they needed somebody who knew the cave in order to show them the inner workings of the cave. And once they got that to a point where they felt confident enough, they got rid of the niggas who knew the cave. You see what I'm saying? Don't be fooled by the National Park Service mumbo jumbo. You see what I'm saying? The Bransford family had been at Mammoth Cave long before the Europeans got there, man. They got the Bransfords up there and they giving them some credit, but they don't want to give you the credit that you deserve, man. Now, how would these Africans brought over here that don't really know shit about caves go explore and map out these caves that they don't have a clue about, never seen before, never smelt before? How the hell did they navigate this shit? You see what I'm saying? Come on, man. You gotta use this shit for more than a hat rack. You see what I'm saying? And I've got other I've done extensive research on it. It's just been way before I ever thought about doing anything on YouTube, and I apologize to y'all for not doing a more due diligence on bringing it. But this is a great start, and I urge the League of Shadows members to go ahead and dig up some more information on it. Y'all point me back to it, or if y'all want me to dig deeper into it, dive deeper, do something longer, do another part 2 on it, just let me know and I'll go ahead and go through the archives, pull some shit up and show y'all more evidence of how I know that black people own this land before the Europeans got there. But the National Park Service is notorious for stealing land. That's one of the biggest things that they do, is steal what they see as valuable land from the rightful owners of it. You see what I'm saying? And we struggle to say that we owned it because as black people, as Aboriginal Americans, before they got here, we wasn't really owning the land. We just used it. We set up camps. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was writing nothing out, deeds to the land. We might fight over it if we felt like, we needed to claim it from a op. You know what I'm saying? We might fight over it or whatever, but Usually we was free flowing. We was moved. We set up our little camps, set up our mounds, and everybody respected it. You see what I'm saying? So it wasn't like nobody had a deed to the land or nothing. So that's another way that they can escape from telling you that black people occupied this land way before they got here. You see what I'm saying? But you can read between the lines. I know all my League of Shadows can read between the lines, man. We was born in the darkness. You feel me? We could see in the dark, just like Matt Bransford, just like Ed Bishop. We could see through the darkness, man, and we can map this shit out. Now they letting you know they had to move black people off the land. If these was just slaves, just yank them by their chain and just take them on. If that was the case, but nah, we was established there. Motherfucker had a whole hotel there. You see what I'm saying? So you don't really how you gonna allow slave people to build a hotel somewhere where you discovered it? Like, nah, bro. And there's no speech of no Native Americans, no $5 Indians that they had to move off the land first. It's black people mapping the land out. You see what I'm saying? And that's because we knew the cave, bro. Underground Railroad shit on some Harriet Tubman shit. We already knew those caves, them nooks and them crannies, man. So like we showed them, like we probably shouldn't have. We definitely shouldn't have. But you know, we a kind people. We invite and we Thanksgiving. We offer food to those that's starving. We'll give you some land, man, and let you set some shit up. But in hindsight, we probably should have never did that. But everything happened for a reason. But I just wanted to show y'all that, man. I got evidence for days on this topic. We could touch on some other shit. Y'all let me know if y'all interested. If this interests you in the comments, just put yes or I'm interested, and I'll cook up some more videos for y'all, man. It ain't nothing to me. I do it for y'all. You feel me? I do it for the league. All you got to do is hit that subscribe for me. It's real simple. All you got to do is put that hitchhiker thumbs up for me. That's all you got to do. Ring that bell like Quasimodo for your bro. That's all you got to do for me, man, and I'll keep this shit turning, man. It ain't nothing to a boss. But yeah, man, as always, it's a pleasure having y'all tune in. It's your boy DOA, putting shit together. Peace and love, truth and light, wisdom and insight. To the next episode, y'all. Peace.